What's up, man?
Hey, it's Joe Fortenbaugh from National Football Post.
Oh, what's going on, man?
Not much. How you doing?
Good, how are you? We have about 7 or 8 questions we're going to ask you. You're talking to Tim, Justin, and AC. So I'll start you with this question. You saw the Texans game today. What were your thoughts on it?
The Texans played exactly like, a team that needed to win in their position needed to play. They relied on their defense. They relied on their running game. They put T.J. Yates in manageable situations, especially on third down. They kept him protected. They didn't ask him to do too much. What they did was they played to their strengths. And most importantly, they didn't make any mistakes. They let the crowd noise do their thing. And when it was all said and done, they came out with a real nice win.
Yeah, I agree with that, for sure.
This is Justin. Will Andy Dalton be able to reproduce his rookie season next year?
Yeah, Dalton should continue to grow as a quarterback. This was a real good year for him. Threw for a lot of yards, built a real nice rapport with A.J. Green. They didn't win any big games against teams with great records. You know, that was their big shortcoming, but they did make the playoffs. They had a road playoff game. He gets experience like that under his belt, which is extremely valuable. You know, and moving forward, now you've got some goals. You know, you want to be able to beat a team like the Steelers and the Ravens next season. And, moving forward from that, I think he's only got a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, and this is AC here, man. And coming out right now, the Lions with a 7-0 lead. What are some of your thoughts on tonight's game?
Well, it looks like a shootout, as a lot of people expected in this one. The Lions came right down the field, looked good, played it manageable, hit a lot of slants to Titus Young, got Calvin and Johnson involved on that screen, and also took a shot at him down the field. You know, they're going to have to establish a running game today to be able to pull this thing out. That's one of the Saints' biggest weaknesses. But right now they're playing within themselves, and the key will be to try to get some stops on defense.
All right, guys, we're talking to Joe Fortenbaugh of the NFL Post right now, and can you see any scenario tomorrow where Tim Tebow and the Broncos beat the Steelers?
You know, a lot of experts out here in Vegas think the Broncos are the right pick. I still can't get a reason from them why they like the Broncos. I just know why they don't like the Steelers. Isaac Redman's going to start in place of the injured Rashard Mendenhall. Ryan Clark's out. Pouncey's out. So there's a lot of injuries. In addition to that, Pittsburgh has struggled on the road this year. We saw them at San Francisco on Monday night. They had a big problem there. Didn't play too well at Cleveland in that road game. And then there's a few others where they weren't that impressive. You know, early in the year against Baltimore, they got waxed on the road against the Ravens. So I think a lot of people think that this situation's somewhat comparable to last year's game where the Saints went to Seattle and got beat. But I think when it's all said and done, Pittsburgh ends up pulling out the win because I just don't know how Tim Tebow and the Broncos are going to score.
Hey, man, there were reports. I'm an LT fan, but there are reports saying that LT will retire or possibly is considering retirement. Do you think he will? And if he does, what team do you think he'll return? Will he return to the Jets?
Well, I don't think there's a big spot for him with the Jets anymore. They're a team that they could really use his leadership. They need a guy like that in the locker room. But if he couldn't get it done as a leader there now, and I'm not saying it's his fault, it's obviously the fault of guys in that locker room that have become a poison. Santonio Holmes being first and foremost that comes to mind. I don't know if LT would want to return to play for a team like that. You know, he's used to playing in San Diego. He was a leader. And while that team didn't have the success at all times that he wanted, you know, at least they were a pretty cohesive unit and didn't have a lot of problems in the locker room. This Jets situation looks like a mess. I don't know why a future Hall of Famer like him would want to come back and play there when, if he would decide to come back, you know, maybe take a shot somewhere else with a young team and try to provide some great leadership to them. So hopefully for him, he calls it a career, goes out, rests those legs, enjoys his retirement. If he does decide to come back, though, it'll still be fun to watch him play.
Yeah, and switching gears to the NFC now, what are your thoughts on the Falcons-Giants game tomorrow?
Good game. Tough game to read. Two evenly matched teams both coming into the playoffs on a hot streak. Atlanta rights the wrong that they had on Monday night against the Saints. They come back the next week and blow out the Buccaneers. Meanwhile, the New York Giants get a big win in a must-win situation against the Jets and then do the same thing the following week against the Dallas Cowboys. So they're coming in hot. My key to the game is Atlanta's offensive line versus New York's defensive front. if they can protect Matthew Stafford and keep him upright, they should have a very good chance to win because the Giants' secondary is very susceptible to the pass. Roddy White and Julio Jones could have a big day. But Matt Ryan isn't a very mobile quarterback, stands upright in the pocket, is a bit stiff, and if the Giants can get after him, get him off his mark, and disrupt him throughout the game, they're going to have a very good chance to win this game. I think it's going to be tough for Atlanta to go outdoors up to a place like New York in a hostile environment and get the win. But the good news for them, I heard it was 60 degrees in New York today, and that would certainly play to Atlanta's advantage.
Yeah, we're talking to Joe Fortenbaugh of the NFL Post. Justin is a Chargers fan, and myself and AC are Eagles fans. So what is your take on Norv Turner and Andy Reid coming back as head coaches?
You know, I can see the Eagles bringing back Andy Reid. He had been with the team for 13 years, had a lot of success. Granted, this was a situation where the team didn't live up to the expectations, but they showed a lot of spunk late in the season. When it would have been very easy to quit and give up, they rallied, they played well, the defense continued to improve, and, they pulled out some wins. And while it didn't end up going the way they wanted it to go, when all was said and done, there's a lot to build on going into next season. And I think you take that and you couple it with the fact that Reid's going to have a full off season to work with these guys, probably the right move. In San Diego, it makes no sense to bring Norv Turner back. You know exactly who he is and what he can do. And one thing he can't do is get this team to the Super Bowl. If your goal in San Diego is to win a Super Bowl, you spend $100 million on Phillip Rivers, give him a guy who can get him there. John Gruden, Jeff Fisher, they're both out on the market, but they don't even want to make a move. San Diego's a cheap organization, and that's going to come back to bite them because I'll tell you what, 8-8 looks like it's in the cards for this team again next year.
Well, I hope San Diego uses those words as motivation for next year, me being a huge Chargers fan. Who do you think should win the MVP? Skip Bayless, a first take, said Tom Brady's going to win it now. I'm not the biggest Skip Bayless fan. I guarantee us three on here are not Skip Bayless fans. Do you think Tom Brady has a shot, or who do you think will win the MVP this year?
Well, I'll tell you what, I love the Brady argument. I was talking about it a few weeks before Bayless. I don't like being lumped into the same category as that guy, unfortunately. And I think we all know why. You guys just talked about how you don't like him. I think he's a blowhard as well. So, but Brady, there's a great case for Brady because when you take a look at the Patriots, if you take him off that team, I don't see them winning more than 2, maybe 3 games. He means everything to that team. They have a terrible defense. Their wide receivers outside of Welker, Deion Branch has passed his years, and they've really got no one else. And the tight ends, while they've been playing great in Hernandez and Gronkowski, I really don't think those guys that on other teams would be putting up the same amount of numbers. So Brady does a lot to get that team to where they are. But that being said, you look at what the Packers and Aaron Rodgers have done this year, 15-1. You got to go with him. He rolled up the big numbers. He came up big in the big spots. He didn't turn the ball over. Phenomenal year. I like Tom Brady as a pick. He should be in contention, but at the end of the day, it goes to Rodgers.
You being the Penn State alum, what do you think of Penn State hiring the Patriots offensive coordinator as a head coach?
Well, I wish him the best of luck. He's got a big journey ahead of him. It's going to be tough to get that program back to where it needs to be, especially with him continuing to coach towards the Super Bowl, whereas he's needed right now in recruiting. So it's not a good spot for Penn State in terms of recruiting. But, Bill O'Brien, hopefully he comes in there and he gets something done. I'm not sure really what to say about the whole thing. The program's been down for a number of years. This past year was a complete disgrace for the university and everyone involved. And, I wish him the best of luck, but Patriots coordinators have not had very good luck as head coaches, so I'm hoping he can break that trend and find some success.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is your Super Bowl prediction?
Before the season started, I had the Saints over the Patriots, and while I'm not a huge fan of that pick at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stick with it. They're both in the playoffs right now. There's really no point in going against myself at this point, so I'll still stick with it. Saints over the Patriots on February 5th.
All right, Joe Fortenbaugh of the NFL Post. Joe, I appreciate your time on the Cash Calling AC Sports Report.
Thanks a lot for having me, fellas. Enjoy the game tonight.
All right, thanks, man.
Have a great night, man.